Sometimes you just gotta go Bardown.
Krull, top titty 2x4 to end the game. That was nice.
Bardown Beauties.
That's the sexy part of the game, is it not? The plays and the goals and the...
Yeah, that's what you guys like. I mean, it is great.
And now, a new episode of Bardown Beauties with Jesse Pierce and Kirsten Krull. You need some merch to represent Rock the Frost, cheer them on as they work to repeat and become back-to-back champs. You can do that with SotaStick. You know we love all the SotaStick merch, and of course they have one that represents the Frost. That's in collaboration with Taylor Heisey and Grace Zumwinkle. The dynamic duo t-shirt represents the black cat, the golden retriever. That is the duo of Zumwinkle and Heisey. They worked with SotaStick to create this one-of-a-kind custom tee that could be yours. Add it to your closet today. Kirsten and I both have one. We love it. We rock it. You should get yours too. As always, don't forget to smash Bardown Beauties at checkout for 15% off all purchases on SotaStick.com. And go ahead, get your duo t-shirt. Get all your merch needs at SotaStick.com. What's going on, everybody? Hello. That was a weird intro. I always throw myself off when I'm not sticking to my routine, but I'm Jesse Pierce, writer for NHL.com. She's Kirsten Krull. We're bringing you Bardown Beauties, episode 280. Can't believe we've made it here. Took a week off. Welcome back, Kirsten. Stanley Cup Finals starting this week. Edmonton, Florida, going at the repeat. But you projected that Connor McDavid and his anger when he shows it was going to make it back to the finals.
Remember when I said Edmonton was my pick? I believe I did say Edmonton. I don't know if I am. You know what? I'm not going to make any comments because I'm not going to roll back the tape, but I did have a little bit of confidence in Edmonton to go back to the finals at the start of the season. So I'm thrilled. Yeah. I'm all aboard Team McDavid. Get that man his cup. The only thing I'm going to be sad about is we no longer can make fun of our Canadian friends saying they haven't had the Stanley Cup in over 2 decades. So that's the only thing that's going to be upsetting to me.
Fair. That's fair. You do hate to lose some razzing of our northern friends. We will roll back the tape eventually. I have to go back, find our predictions, and we'll do that probably next week before we do the Beauties Awards as well, because that's what offseason is all about. Personally, I'm on the Florida train. Like, watching them throughout the course of the playoffs, like, they're so freaking good. I mean, they run and gun, which is incredible. They're getting good goaltending. Brad Marchand has been a tremendous pickup for them. I think Florida repeats. Do I love it? Nah, I don't love a repeat in general of the finals. Like, I like to get some fresh blood. And you know me, I had my Dallas Stars in there. We don't need to talk about the Eastern Conference New York Rangers. Absolutely abysmal performance. But I'll go Florida for the finals for back-to-back champs.
Yeah, I'm going McDavid. The second he touched the cup, not the President's Trophy, excuse me, but the Conference Championship Trophy, I knew. That man is not effing around.
Are we going to get another dig the F in and just another super angry McDavid locker room speech?
If it needs to happen, I hope it does happen, but I also hope it doesn't get to that point for Edmonton. I hope they just take control early. I don't know. Seeing McDavid and Draisaitl give each other that look on the bench, there was no turning back ever since then.
I mean, it's interesting. It'll be fun. I'm hoping for, again, a good finals. It's the heart of summer beginning. Best time of hockey is the Stanley Cup Finals. Looking forward to that. We had some good hockey over the weekend, though. I want to give a shout out to the Hendrickson Foundation for including us in their celebrity game. No, we didn't play, but we coached our team to victory. I, on one hand, undefeated 6-0. Kirsten, undefeated in her debut. Hell of a time. I had a great time.
Yeah. I just tossing back some beers like any good coach does right on the bench, really motivating their team. Did I have any idea what was going on? No. Did they figure it out? Yes. So.
Yeah. There were a couple questionable calls on the ice that I had to talk to the Stripes about. I went and chirped the other side of the bench. But our team was pretty stacked. We had Freddie Gaudreau. We had Marcus Foligno. We had Paul Fletcher. We had Matt Cook. We had Bugsy Malone. We had some pretty solid players. Andrew Wong in net, stepping in for our friend Connor Beaupre, who was on assignment elsewhere.
Leo Garuba, St. Cloud State's very own Austin Bernovic.
Yeah, your St. Cloud Husky people. Oliver Moore of the Gophers, who played very
I forgot
well.
He was on our team, obviously.
Yeah, he scored.
No, Oliver Moore of the Chicago Blackhawks. Okay.
This is true. We did petition to have him take the place of Connor McDavid. Like, him and Connor McDavid don't need to be together. Like, he can just be the next Connor McDavid. or not Connor McDavid, Connor Bedard, excuse me.
I was so confused. I was like, I don't understand the correlation.
Connor Bedard is what I meant. So him and Connor Bedard next year are going to be pretty incredible. Foligno and I had a conversation about that. Like it's going to be great. But more importantly than our prowess during the celebrity game was obviously the Hendrickson Foundation and all that they do for disabled hockey veterans, blind, deaf, every designation of special hockey. Every year they have a big tournament where they bring in all of these teams from Thursday to Sunday. And it's just so cool. It's just absolutely incredible. Shout out to everybody that came and said hi as well. And shout out to, more importantly, all the players and families who got to be celebrated and recognized throughout the course of the weekend. It was a fantastic time out at Schwann Super Rink.
It was. Super Rink is always a good time. It's even better when you're surrounded by great people. So
Exactly.
Great people for a great cause.
Shout out. Love it. Let's dive into some more people in relation to hockey. I want to get your thoughts, Kirsten, on a couple of rumors surrounding the Minnesota Wild. Obviously, we will get to Q's with the Beauties as well, which includes some Marco Rossi conversation. I apologize. It's the only thing going on this offseason. But I want to pick your brain. The Athletic, Michael Russo, released a story late last night and kind of buried in the story about Rossi and where they are at terms, which again, we'll talk about in Q's. He mentioned that Marcus Johansson might actually be making a return for the Minnesota Wild. Now, it would be at a steep discount. Would you be comfortable bringing JoJo back in any capacity? And if what is your threshold for him? Now, Marcus Johansson, we have talked at length how he's good on a contract year. I don't want more than a year of the 34-year-old, right?
I laugh because I've been saying this. I believe mid-season you had said like, no, this is whatever, like Johansson. Granted, he was giving his play not up to expectations of what people had hoped until he really kicked it into gear and contract year. We knew this was going to happen. So I don't know. 1 year deal for sure. We just got to keep that great play during a contract year going. So I think 1 year contracts only for the man.
And maybe lower the expectations. I'm fine with him being in the bottom 6. I don't want him in a top 6 role at all. Now, again, that's all pending on what happens in free agency. But the last time Marcus Johansson had a good season was 2016-17, frankly. And I'm just being honest, right? He had, what did he have? 16 goals this year and 47 points was a minus 19. Now, again, a lot plays into that. You get no more than $2 million. And that's even being generous. I'd sign you for 1.5, maybe 1 year at 1.5 if you're really wanting to do this. Because again, there's also the injury factor too. It's not that you can't play either. It's just he's hurt a lot.
Yeah. And that's definitely something you have to take into consideration, especially coming out of this season for the Wild. I'm just, what is the word I'm looking for, the phrase that I'm trying to get out and express here on an early Monday morning as we record? I'm haunted by the injuries that we suffered through this season. I think health needs to be the utmost priority as we head into the new year here.
That feels very much like a Taylor Swift line. Like, I'm haunted. I feel like she's haunted.
Hey, she got her master's back. It's all about Taylor Swift right now.
Exactly. I know. I'm happy for you and her and the Swifties.
I feel like it's a victory of my own. That's all I'm going to say.
It would be similar. This is like Marcus Johansson's victory. He's not going to go play in Sweden. He'll play another year of professional hockey in the bottom 6. That is my plea, is if you're going to bring him back, he needs to be in the bottom 6, because that means you're getting better players in the offseason, which is available. Speaking of better players, JJ Peterka. That is a name that has been floated around a ton. A little bit about Mr. JJ Peterka, 6 foot 0. 6 foot
6 foot 0.
6 foot. For some reason, I thought I was going to say 6'3".
Now.
I was going to say 6'3", but he's not. He's 6 foot, 189 pounds, 23-year-old German right wing, drafted 34th overall by the Sabres in 2020. So he is the same age as Mr. Marco Rossi. Now, the difference is he is a point per game type of player. Marco Rossi hasn't quite shown necessarily that. Obviously, there's the size. He's got 67 career NHL goals in 2 seasons, 150 points, put up 27 goals and 68 points in 77 games last year. Second in scoring for the Buffalo. Now, yes, that is for Buffalo, and I'm sure Buffalo is going to want to keep him. He is a restricted free agent, much like Marco Rossi. So the offer sheets are going to be flying, not just from Minnesota, but for other teams, because this kid has a great trajectory, solid 5-on-5 player. As I mentioned, a point per game. You're looking at probably $6 million AAV for a shorter term deal. If you're going long term, I would bet $8 million. But I kind of like the idea of going for JJ. Now, again, him being in a very similar situation as Marco. What are your thoughts, Kirsten? Do you want to take the risk on another 23-year-old because, hey, he's got a little bit more size? Or would you say, you know what, that's a wash. Why the hell are we going to get rid of Marco Rossi for a similar situation?
I mean, that's my initial gut reaction. I do like the size, but I mean, yeah, you have a player who's a little bit more proven, at least in this system, this organization, who's just continued on an upward trajectory. So it's kind of, yes, I think Minnesota could definitely use more size. I think in that aspect, I'm not totally opposed, but also it kind of seems like what is the point for just swapping for similar point values at the end of the season? You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying. Like you're right. Rossi has obviously the familiarity here. And again, we'll dive a little bit more into him because that question was our hottest question in our mailbag this week, because there is no resolve there with him. I do like the idea of JJ's a left-handed shot. I think Bill Guerin would like the size more. We all know that. It's no secret. We're beating a dead horse in that conversation. I don't know if Buffalo will give him up, though, because they obviously are going to recognize that value, and they can afford it, too. You know, the Oversheet saga only gets interesting when teams are salary cap strapped, like St. Louis and Edmonton had gone back and forth last year. I think Carolina did the same thing. Like, if you can hem a team in their own end and you know that they can't match it, like Toronto is probably going to be in a similar situation, then it's different. Buffalo has the money. They can make it work. Now, are they willing to? Is JJ Peterka willing to stay in Buffalo? TBD, right? But I think Bill Guerin needs to toss his hat in that ring. I like it. Another interesting thought I had, Kirsten. Would you trade Ryan Hartman for like a straight up second round pick? Now, Minnesota is lacking picks this year. We all know why. The Gustav Nyquist, the Juracek, all of that. There's not a whole lot of excitement about the NHL draft for the Minnesota Wild currently as it sits. Would you toss Hartman out there for a pick? Would you think that's an acceptable value for Ryan Hartman?
No, I wouldn't do it, and I don't think it's acceptable at this point. If Ryan Hartman continued how he was playing when he received that hefty 10-game suspension, if he didn't know how to control himself moving forward coming out of that, if he was still taking super bad penalties, then I would make an argument that we just need to part ways. But he had more control towards the end of the season. We've seen good things from Ryan Hartman. No. And this isn't a very deep draft that we're heading into either for prospects. So no, I would say no.
I'm laughing because I'm going to interrupt our podcast record for breaking news. The Minnesota Wild have signed Marcus Johansson to a 1-year, $800,000 contract for next season. So that is officially released. Don't hate the term. It's 1 year. It's less than $1 million. Now I need to see him in the bottom six. That is your breaking news. You can just probably fast forward through this entire part of the segment. It was a great conversation while we had it.
Well, you know what? At least it's come full circle. I like the way that it unfolded.
1 year for $800,000. I'm 100% okay with that.
Yeah, I am as well.
Like, it doesn't hurt me. I just don't need to see him in the top six. Like, that's sad, I think, right? Like a guy that you're signing for this low for that little, like it just, no, he's not a top six forward then. That should be indicative just by the contract alone.
Yeah. No, I'm not. I'm very content with that. And it's a 1-year contract, so we're going to get more of the Marcus Johansson we love to see. So
yeah, exactly.
Contract year. Every year moving forward's a contract year, baby.
I'm going to tweet this out. Please pardon my interruption. Discuss amongst yourself. Kirsten, I do something you could discuss. The Puppy Bowl, the Stanley Cup Pup Bowl. I don't know if you saw that press release.
Stanley Cup Pup Bowl?
They're going to have adoptable dogs in lighthearted competition. Some NHL players are going to come through. It'll be on like True TV, similar to how they have the Super Bowl Puppy Bowl, I imagine. And they all have the fun, cute little like hockey affiliated names. How pumped are you for that?
Do they need a host? Because I am willing to offer my services. Honestly, for free. For free. Yeah. I'm willing to work for free, everybody. This is my dream event. This is like up there next to the dog shows, the Westminster Kennel Club dog show. Like this is up there as events I would love to work. So yeah, the Super Bowl, Puppy Bowl, get my name out there for all the dogs.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Food for thought. Final food for thought before we jump into cues with the Beauts. The Athletic again had released how the Minnesota Wild stack up to the other Western Conference playoff teams. And Kirsten, the graphic itself doesn't give us a lot of positivity. Now, we keep talking about this team making a deep run, this team being an actual contending team and not just a one and done. And yes, that could start next year once you get Kaprizov taken care of, once you get some free agency in there. As it stacks right now, according to The Athletic, the defensive rating is the closest to the rest of the Western Conference teams at 8.9 defensive rating. For Western Conference teams, 8.7. Now, that's, of course, due to Rhodes, Faber, Jake Middleton. Feeling good there. The offensive rating, Kirsten, 2, compared to 42.6 for the rest of the teams in the playoffs, or in the conference playoffs. That's not great.
No. No. Defensively, I'm feeling good, though.
Yeah, it's good. You have Krull Kaprizov leading the way with 16.2. I mean, it's not great. The net rating, 61.2 versus 20.8 for your Minnesota Wild. Now, again, I want to stress, there's obviously concern, but I think those holes that are being looked to be filled are obviously going to be addressed come July 1, right? Or even come before that, before the draft, if trades are being made, because usually trades are made around that time with draft position and whatnot. Even earlier, maybe this year, because it's remote drafting, so everybody will be together at the combine instead, and that's maybe where some trades are going to be made. But yeah, I think Bill Guerin hopefully recognizes that that's the area. We've talked about the blue line is pretty solidified, and I'm feeling good about that, but geez, that offense looks terrible when compared to Dallas and Edmonton and Carolina and Florida.
Yeah, it's not ideal, and it makes me a little hesitant. It makes me wonder what Bill's plans are as we do head into free agency in the new league year. Yeah. I just also too, and I was scrolling Twitter, because it's always going to be Twitter to me. I was scrolling the other day and I saw Russo's doing a mailbag, and everyone's like, which top center are we going to get? Which star forward? We were promised a star caliber player. And then Russo made a good point too. He's like, we didn't expect Kirill Kaprizov to be a 15 million per year player, Brock Faber to be an 8 million per year player. So it makes me hesitant how much money we're even going to have. I think we're going to get strapped in now with, and not saying he's not worth it, but with extending Kirill and whatnot. So it makes me nervous as opposed to more excited heading into free agency.
Yeah, I've wanted to remind people of that pretty consistently. There's not as much money as everybody thinks. Yes, it's going to help out a ton to not be paying those guys willy-nilly anymore, but it's still, you have these other contracts to consider with Faber's kicking in next year. Boldy's still at $7 million, right? And you've got to figure out some other different pieces. But with that, let's talk a little bit more about the offseason and free agency with our Cues of the Beauts, Cues of the Beauts, Cues of the Beauts. Gosh, it's great. Great singer. Songbird of my generation. Austin C wants to know which free agent should be the Wild's first priority before or after the draft. Kirsten?
I'm not saying going back to what I just said, I don't think you have the money to get as top of a line free agent as people are hoping. So hence Mitch Marner. We're not getting Mitch Marner, everybody. I don't even think he wants to come here. Rumor had it he wanted Vegas was one of his top 2 teams. I think Vegas and Florida were 2 of the teams rumored he had interest in going to. I don't even know what would be realistic. Again, I'm throwing out some names. I would love to see a high caliber forward. For me, I've always loved Tage Thompson. I think he's a free agent this year, correct? Buffalo?
Nope. He signed that hefty, or yes, he is, but he had signed a hefty contract. No, he's not. He's not a free agent.
I don't know. I'm hesitant to say who is and who isn't a free agent.
I feel like he's not just signed. I want to say just signed one last year, 2 years ago.
Maybe he did. I don't know. It's a Monday morning. But regardless, point still stands. I'd like to see a high value forward. I don't know what works necessarily within our budget.
Tage Thompson signed and I think this was last year, but let's just double check. For anybody that wants to come for you, we're verifying. You didn't say that.
Well, I know somebody else threw that name around, so I read it somewhere. I'm not familiar with everybody's contract,
I
guys.
wanted them to implore Tage Thompson. Absolutely. I know we've discussed it on here, but I do think he had just signed. Yeah, so he has signed with Buffalo through 2030-31 with a cap hit of like a little over $7 million because he had signed his 7-year contract last year. So this is year 2 of him. But yeah, I mean, I'd love for them to explore that again. That's a trade candidate, I think, for them to target. And I mean, if you're Buffalo and you're confident in Peterka, then sure, maybe that's it. I would say we've talked about it at length, and we'd say center is the area that they need the most. I want to toss a name out there. And the problem is a lot of the quote unquote good centers on the market, they are older, with the exception, I think Mitch Marner might be the youngest one available who is the best. So that's where it gets hard. Sam Bennett is 29, I guess. Mitch Marner's 28. So Mitch Marner is the youngest and the best. Mitch Marner's not a center, though. Sam Bennett would be oh, yes, Mitch Marner's a center. I'm all over the place, too, guys. I apologize. Mitch Marner, 28. Sam Bennett is 29. John Tavares, if you're sticking with Toronto, is obviously older. I would like to maybe explore Yanni Gourde, right? Like, maybe that's an option. He's 33. He's got a cap hit of 5.1. He has been in the Stanley Cup championship with Lightning. He was with Seattle as of late. I don't know. I think he's pretty good, but I think he can have a difficult time fitting into a line. I think that's why he's been moved around. He's a very solid. Again, I don't hate the cost. I don't hate the age. I would explore that maybe. Claude Giroux was another name that somebody tossed at me once, and he's 37, which I don't love, but he's good. Same with, it'd be like getting a Tavares. So I think you find a center, and ideally it's not Brock Nelson. So that also covers our next question, which is Jerry R. Is Brock Nelson homeward bound? I say no. Kirsten?
Well, I think we talked about this a week or two ago. I don't want him. Respectfully, I don't want him. Like, I think it would be an overpayment. Not saying he's obviously an exceptional player. There's no doubt about that. I'm not knocking his skill, but he's going to be, I believe, 34 come the start of this upcoming season, especially when the Wild need to get younger. I don't think that's helping us move into the right direction we're aiming for. So, I mean, still a lot of upside to him there, but I was also disappointed. I mean, I guess I wasn't disappointed. It didn't affect me. It affected Colorado. They paid a hefty sum for him essentially as a rental, and he was almost seemingly on the score sheet, non-existent, no goals. I think he had 1 or 2 assists throughout 7 games played in the postseason. So not what I'm looking for Minnesota.
Yeah, I mean, and he's capable. So, of course, I'm not going to be overly upset about it, depending on the prices if he comes, because he is one of the top centers available in free agency this year. But he's definitely low on my list, like maybe 4 or 5. I'd rather explore other options. That also kind of answers Gene N's question of, with Parise and Suter buyouts no longer hampering the salary cap, aside from the Kaprizov extension, what is the biggest move the Wild need to make? What would be a great available number 1 center that fits the system? So I think we just kind of covered that.
I have a question I need us to get in. It's a twofer because recency as well. It needs to be talked about. And I love hating on Dallas as a certified hater.
Here we go.
Alicia N. Thoughts on what will happen with Ottinger's in the postseason, followed by KJ Carlson. True or false, Jamie Benn has played his last game for the Dallas Stars. I would like to run quick with Ottinger. I didn't find it comical. I found it to be very much a power move for DeBoer to pull him after 2 goals on, I believe, 2 shots. Like, granted, I understand, but he's still by far your best goaltender. Your team's already down. I get it was a move to ignite your team, but also I saw a really great meme on Twitter about it. First, the knife in the back was in Marc-Andre Fleury in Vegas, and now the knife in the back with Ottinger. That man has something out for goaltenders, I believe, after kind of putting 2 and 2 together there. But also, I think it was very telling on the bench. Ottinger also not happy. He, in the presser, was noting that it was embarrassing to get pulled. It's always embarrassing, but gives fist bumps to all of his teammates, his other coaches, except for DeBoer. I loved that. So I think there's definitely some tension there. don't know what's going to happen. I think DeBoer goes before Ottinger goes.
Yeah, I mean, that's your franchise goalie, right? Like, there's no question about it. That was a move. That was a move for sure. One of the best goaltenders in the National Hockey League without question. And then I didn't love the comment afterward where Pete DeBoer was like, well, and he's lost 6 of 8 to Edmonton as well, going back to last year. And I was like, wow, dude, like that's, and you've heard that of Pete DeBoer, right? Like he doesn't mince words, and that's where it can be effective. And I agree with you. Like it was clearly to try to get his team going, but then they score a minute and 30 seconds later too. Like goaltending was far from the issue for Dallas in that series and in that game in particular, an elimination game. Your offense wasn't going like it was. It wasn't flying high. So Jake Ottinger getting pulled and staying pulled was just a lot. And I'm sure that does cause some friction. Now, part of it is that's going to be a player-coach relationship, right? And I'm sure it can be mended because I think in knowing Jake Ottinger as a person, it's not something that he's necessarily going to be a grudge, because that's going to happen in the course of a career. You're going to be pulled in big moments and you're going to have disagreements with your coach. So I think it depends on how Pete DeBoer handles it after this. It'll be very interesting. You mentioned the Jamie Benn then too. Would you sign Jamie Benn in Minnesota?
No.
Nah, not even.
I don't want him.
He's not one of those guys that like, oh, if he plays for you, you'd be good.
No. I think there's too much certified hatred towards Dallas and any affiliate member. So no. But it also would be very spiteful to pick him up too on our end. At least for me, in my mind, the way my world spins, it would be spiteful. So I'm kind of into that too. I don't know.
I think Dallas loves him. I think he's beloved there. So I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to work out some low end deal for him on free agency, because I don't know that a lot of teams will come knocking just either based on the player he is or his age or whatever his price may be. I wouldn't hate having him, I guess, again, in a bottom 6 agitating role, similar to Brad Marchand. Like you can go out there, stir it up a little bit, be the guy that goes in the penalty box because I don't really need you playing anything. Like I think he could be effective anyway for the right price.
Yeah.
Kind of fun. It just would be nice to not have to go against him, I guess, as well, right?
Yeah. I don't know. There's a number of ways you could roll with that one.
That's true. We had mentioned Marco Rossi, a hot point of discussion in all of our queues. Kirsten, I know you don't want to talk about it. So do you want to ask the 2 Rossi questions that we have?
Well, let me take some of this. Will the Wild trade a D-man and Rossi for a top 6 center? I know. And Pat Micheletti, have you not seen my tweets? You've seen my tweets. I think you were just trying to stir the pot with this one because he's also on the side Rossi shouldn't be traded. So, Pat, I see what you're doing and I'm calling you on it. I think the Wild are a little bit backpiled on defensemen. I don't know which defenseman you would even go and trade. The only one I could maybe see, Juracek, but also you gave up so much for him. So why would you trade him? And then Rossi. Yeah, I'm done. I'm going to give it to you. I don't want to talk about it anymore.
The Wild trading a D-man and Rossi, and yes, Pat was just stirring the pot. Should Rossi be traded? I think that's fine. I have no problem trading Marco Rossi. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I have no problem with it. Trading a D-man and Rossi, I think, and this leads into Derek F's question about David Spacek as well, who we're going to talk about, but I would trade Spacek and Rossi for a top 6 center. Absolutely. If there's someone that you really have your eye on and you're hungry for. Because as Derek F points out, David Spacek's dad, Yaroslav, suggested David doesn't have a chance to make it in Minnesota. Should that make Guerin pause before filling roster spots with free agents so the cheaper prospects have a chance to battle for spots? Now, Yaroslav had possibly said this. His interview was translated during the World Championships, and he suggested that David was showcasing himself because there's no room in Minnesota. I don't think Guerin gives a bleeping bleep about that. Like, I think he's set with his defenseman with Bogosian, Bouillon. Sounds like they might make a qualifying offer to Declan Chisholm, depending on where that lands. So there's still that potential for your 7th D-man there. So he's probably right. There is no room for David Spacek. That being said, trade Spacek with Rossi, because I think David Spacek is your closest prospect available for Minnesota. Yeah, why not? Let's do that. 2 birds, 1 stone. Boom. Kevin G also wants to know, Kirsten, the Wild Farm system is constantly ranked in the top 10, but Rossi is the only drafted player by this regime to make any impact. Is there reason to be concerned about the drafting and development of draft picks?
I guess I'm slightly concerned about the development down in Iowa. I think there's been excitement with players, and we haven't seen a ton come to fruition. Maybe that's recency bias because we've had to pull so hard from Iowa up to the Wild roster. But I don't know. I don't know. It's really hard for me to give a definitive answer, but I'm slightly concerned, slightly sounding the alarm personally.
Yeah, it's interesting because Bill Guerin was asked during our end of the season check-in was, are all the staff in Iowa staying on board? And they are. Now, this was their first year. And again, it's hard to get a rhythm going when you're constantly having to call guys up and have some of your best players necessarily be with the Wild and try to step in. But it is very interesting because I think the biggest problem is you don't see the young guys playing meaningful minutes. You're not seeing the young guys really make their effort. Liam Ogren, you didn't see as much as you probably should have, even during the playoffs. There are certain instances like that where there seems to be a disconnect in allowing the younger players who are supposed to be, quote unquote, some of the best in the National Hockey League. You're not seeing them enough, which is, I think, the biggest cause for concern.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I don't know. There's just like a lot of factors. There's Jesper and him having a really down year this past season. Yes, wanting to see more of the prospects, but not getting to see them. There's a lot of factors that play into that. I don't know. How many more questions are you wanting to do here?
Do finish the Matt S one, and then we'll run through the random fun ones because I think those were kind of good.
On a scale from winning the NHL Calder Memorial Trophy to riding Greyhound buses cross country in Des Moines, where will Zeev Buium end up next season?
Calder. There's no way that kid is going to Iowa for one game, let alone riding a bus with them. There's no way. Then there's something.
I could say I'm calling it now, a couple games down in Iowa for sure. I don't think he spends the entire season up here.
Interesting.
That's my take, just based on what we've seen. I mean, you paid a haul for Juracek, for example. We saw him, once?
But my concern is the pressure that you put on this kid to have him make his debut in the playoffs, obviously, I think is very telling as to where you're ranking him, right? So that's where I think if you are going to set that precedent from the beginning, he doesn't go to Iowa. Similar to Brock Faber. He didn't go down to Iowa, It's interesting. I guess I just wouldn't be shocked if he played a couple games down in Iowa. Sure. That's fair. We talked about goaltending, but Rob R. and Michael K. had asked about the Wild backup situation, and Rob R. in particular saying he thinks, Delstead is overrated. He's not overrated, but yes, there is a concern. Go back to a couple episodes ago, we talked about that. I would love to explore a veteran goalie signing in the free agency for 2 years just to have another option, but that's my concern. I want you, let's do 2 of the random fun ones. Well, I want to ask this one because it's fun. Which historical Wild player did you love and defend more than his play deserved? I wouldn't really say he's historical because it's still recent years. And maybe it's not even I would have to defend as much because people loved him, but Kevin Fiala, I loved. I said from the get-go, because it was the Granlund Fiala trade with Nashville, people were like, why are we doing this? And I was like, oh no, Kevin Fiala, he's at the start of being an exceptional player. So I was so pumped about it. I think I defended him more in the beginning when he first was coming to Minnesota. And then we saw what he could do. So that's probably mine. Funny, because I'm going to go on the flip side. I'm going to say Mikael Granlund is my one that I defend. I think now, is it because of how he played in the postseason with Dallas? Because he was kind of crickets before then. No, I just think Granlund was one of the best centers that they had here. His speed, I really liked him while he was here. Now I understand him and Zucker and Coyle and that group was kind of underwhelming as far as it came to postseason play and everything in general. But heck, he's another guy I'd explore bringing back here for a cost. I think he still has it. He's a little bit older. Plus, he loved my kid, and I love that for him personally. There you go. There you have it. And we'll wrap it up with this final one from our dear friend, Jeremy L. Would you rather have a team of 12 Kaprizovs or 6 Fabers? 12 Kaprizovs, because we could use more scoring. Boom. There you go. But maybe this is the year Faber becomes a very offensive defenseman. We shall see. Again, thanks to everybody so much for submitting your questions. Thanks to Talk North, SotaStick, and Royal Credit Union. And again, thanks to the Hendrickson Foundation. Lots more to come the rest of this offseason because before we know it, free agency is here and then we're back at the rink. Until then, we'll be enjoying paddle boards and golf courses and dog beaches and stuff. I don't know, whatever. What's your favorite offseason thing to do? I just like being outside. I like reading outside. So walking, vitamin D, lake.
Yeah, just being out in nature, man.
Can't disagree more. We're going to do that the rest of the week. Again, thank you guys. Don't forget to rate, subscribe, like, share. We'll catch you back with another new episode next week. Bye.
You literally said I can't disagree more.
Did I? Near, 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 near.